The medical ship Mercy's Hand floated quietly through space. Its white hull gleamed against the darkness, red crosses painted clearly on each side. Inside, Captain Alan Foster walked through the spotless hallways, nodding to crew members as he passed. After 20 years leading rescue missions, he still felt pride in his work. The Mercy's Hand was not a warship. It carried doctors, not soldiers. It brought healing, not harm. "Captain, we're getting something," said Officer Kelly Wright. Her fingers moved quickly over her console as she adjusted the communication settings. "It's faint, but it's definitely a distress call." Alan moved to her station and listened. The message crackled through static. "Life support failing. Casualties. Need immediate assistance." The voice faded in and out. "Can you clean it?" "Up?" he asked. Kelly tried different settings. "That's the best I can do, sir. The signal's coming from near the Dravix border." Alan frowned. The Dravix were not friendly to humans. They were tall, gray-skinned aliens who kept to themselves. They rarely spoke to other species and guarded their space fiercely. Going near their territory was risky. "Any identification on the ship?" he asked. "No, sir. The signal doesn't match any known patterns. It could be a new design or from a species we haven't met before." Alan thought for a moment. The ship's mission was clear: help those in need, no matter who they were. "Plot a course, standard rescue protocols, and let's alert Earth Command about where we're headed." "Yes, sir." The ship changed direction, engines humming as it moved toward the distress signal. Alan called the senior staff to the meeting room. Dr. Natalie Winters arrived first, her white, medical coat slightly wrinkled from a long shift. "What's the situation?" she asked. "Distress call near Dravix Space," Alan explained. "Unknown vessel with life support failure and casualties." Natalie immediately switched to professional mode. "I'll prepare the emergency teams. How many injured?" "We don't know yet." The message was broken. Lieutenant Gregory Diaz entered next, his uniform crisp and neat as always. As chief of security, he looked worried. "Near Dravix Space, that's unusual. They don't let anyone near their borders." "Which is why we need to be careful," Alan agreed. "Yellow alert status. Shields at minimum power, enough to protect us from debris but not enough to appear threatening." "I don't like it," Gregory said. "The Dravix have been more active lately. Our last diplomatic meeting with them didn't go well." "We're not diplomats," Natalie reminded him. "We're doctors. The Galactic Medical Treaty protects us. Every species signed it, even the Dravix." Alan nodded. "Prepare for rescue operations. We'll approach slowly and broadcast our intentions clearly." The meeting ended and the crew prepared for their mission. On the bridge, Alan watched the stars slide past on the main screen. Something felt wrong about this call, but he couldn't ignore someone in need. 20 years of experience had taught him to trust his instincts, but also to follow the oath he took. Help first, ask questions later. "We're entering the coordinates now," Kelly reported. Still no response to our hails. "Keep trying," Alan ordered. "Let them know we're coming to help." The Mercy's Hand slowed as it approached the location. The sensors showed nothing at first, just empty space. "Are we sure about these coordinates?" Alan asked. Gregory checked the readings. "The signal is definitely coming from here, but I'm not seeing—" "Wait." He adjusted the sensor controls. "There's something there, but it's hard to see, like it's hiding somehow." On the screen, a shape slowly appeared, a dark vessel drifting without lights. It was roughly oval-shaped with strange angles that human ships didn't use. "Life signs?" Alan asked. "Reading multiple life forms," Gregory confirmed. "But there's something else. Unusual energy patterns. I've never seen readings like these before." Alan pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All medical teams. Prepare to receive patients. Security. Standard protection protocols only. Remember, we're here to help." He then opened a channel to the mystery ship. "This is Captain Alan Foster of the Earth medical ship Mercy's Hand. We received your distress call and are here to provide assistance. Please respond." Silence answered him. "Maybe their communication system is completely down," Kelly suggested. Or, "They don't speak any language we know," Natalie added as she entered the bridge. "My teams are ready, Captain." Alan nodded. "Take us closer, but slowly. Keep broadcasting our message in all standard languages." The Mercy's hand moved forward carefully. As they got closer, more details of the strange ship became visible. Its hull was dark gray with no markings or windows. It looked damaged in several places, "Sir," Gregory said suddenly, his voice tense. "The energy readings are changing. They're powering up." Before Alan could respond, the dark ship suddenly lit up with glowing lines across its hull. A moment later, 3 more ships appeared, from nowhere surrounding the Mercy's hand. "Dravix warships," Gregory shouted. "They were cloaked." Alan's blood ran cold as he recognized the distinctive design. "Shields up! Red alert! This is a trap!" But it was too late. The first blast hit before their shields could fully activate. The bridge shook violently, throwing crew members to the floor. Alarms blared as damage reports flooded in. "They're targeting our engines and life support," Gregory reported as he pulled himself back to his station. "But why?" Natalie asked, grabbing a console to stay standing. "We're clearly marked as a medical vessel." Alan knew he had only seconds to act. "Kelly, broadcast everything. Full records, all channels. Make sure Earth knows what's happening here." Another blast rocked the ship. The lights flickered and failed, leaving only emergency lighting. "Direct hit to our medical bay," Gregory reported grimly. "They know exactly what they're targeting." Alan stared at the screen in disbelief. The Dravix ships were moving into attack formation. This wasn't a random attack. This wasn't a misunderstanding. The distress call had been fake. A lure to "Bring them here. All hands to escape pods," he ordered, his voice steady despite everything. "Natalie, get your medical team out first. Gregory, security teams cover their retreat. Kelly, keep broadcasting." As the crew rushed to obey, Alan stayed at his post. He needed to give them time. On the screen, he could see the Dravix ships preparing another attack run. They had violated every rule of space. They had targeted healers. They had planned this. "Captain, you need to evacuate too," Kelly insisted, refusing to leave her station. "I will," he promised. "Just make sure that signal gets through to Earth." He paused, then added quietly, "They need to know what happened here." The Mercy's hand shuddered again as another blast tore through its hull. The screen showed Dravix, boarding ships approaching. This wasn't just an attack. They wanted something from the medical ship. Alan knew Earth would respond. How could they not? The Dravix had just made the worst mistake possible. They had attacked those who came only to heal, and Earth would make sure they regretted it. The Mercy's hand shook again as another blast hit. Captain Alan Foster grabbed the edge of his command chair to stay upright. The emergency lights cast red shadows across the bridge. "Escape pod status," he called out. Gregory checked his damaged console. "Medical teams are away. First group of crew pods launching now." More explosions rocked the ship. A support beam crashed down nearby, barely missing Kelly at her communication station. "Captain, you need to go," she insisted, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "I've almost finished the data transfer to Earth." Alan nodded. "You first, that's an order." Kelly hesitated, then nodded. As she moved toward the exit, the ship lurched violently. She fell hard against the wall. Alan helped her up. "Gregory, help." "Her to the escape pods. I'll finish the transmission." "Sir, with all respect." "That's an order, Lieutenant," Alan said firmly. "I'm right behind you." Gregory looked like he wanted to argue, but instead helped Kelly toward the exit. 5 minutes, Captain. Then all remaining pods launch automatically." After they left, Alan worked quickly at the communications station. The ship's cameras showed Dravix boarding vessels attaching to the hull. They would be inside soon. He needed to make sure Earth understood exactly what had happened here. "This is Captain Alan Foster of the Mercy's Hand," he recorded. "We responded to a false distress call that lured us to these coordinates. Dravix, warships ambushed us. They specifically targeted our medical facilities and engines. This was a planned attack on a clearly marked medical vessel. He attached all sensor data, communication logs, and visual recordings. As he worked, the ship's computer announced, 'Warning. Hull breach on decks 3, 5, and 7. Dravix boarding parties detected. Alan finished the transmission and sent it through every available emergency channel. The ship's long-range communication array was still working. One small piece of luck. The message would reach Earth. He headed for the last escape pod but stopped when he heard sounds from the medical storage area. Someone was still there. Alan changed direction, moving carefully through the damaged corridors. The gravity systems were failing, making each step uncertain. In the medical storage room, Dr. Natalie Winters was frantically destroying samples and equipment. "Natalie, the ship is being boarded. We need to go now." She didn't look up. "They can't get these, Alan. Do you understand? These are experimental treatments and vaccines. If the Dravix get them..." Alan understood immediately. The Mercy's hand carried cutting-edge medical technology. In the wrong hands, some of it could be weaponized. 2 minutes, he said, joining her. Together they smashed vials and activated emergency disposal protocols. The room filled with the hiss of sterilization gases. "That's all we can do," Natalie said finally. "The rest will burn when the engines go critical." They ran for the escape pod. The ship shook continuously now. Through broken sections of the hull they could see Dravix soldiers entering, tall gray figures in dark armor carrying strange weapons. "Almost there," Alan encouraged as they reached the escape pod. "Bay." A blast of energy hit the wall next to them. 3 Dravix soldiers stood at the other end of the corridor, weapons raised. "Go." Alan pushed Natalie forward. "Get to the pod." He grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and sprayed it toward the Dravix, filling the corridor with thick white foam. It wouldn't stop them for long, but it might buy enough seconds. Natalie reached the escape pod and turned back for Alan. He was right behind her when a Dravix energy beam caught him in the leg. He stumbled, falling forward into the pod. Natalie hit the launch button as more beams fired toward them. The pod door sealed and launched away from the dying ship. Through the small window, they watched as more Dravix ships surrounded the Mercy's hand. "Why?" Natalie asked, applying emergency treatment to Alan's injured leg. "Why attack a medical ship?" Alan winced as she worked. "They wanted our technology, maybe our medical samples too. But this violates every treaty," she said. "No species attacks medical vessels. It's the one rule everyone follows." Alan nodded grimly. "Which is why Earth will respond. The Dravix have just made the biggest mistake in their history. Their escape pod, along with many others, drifted away from the battle zone. Of the 212 crew members on the Mercy's hand, only 43 had made it to escape pods. The rest were either dead or captured by the Dravix. For 3 days, the survivors floated in space, their emergency beacons broadcasting. The pods had basic life support but little else. They could only wait and hope that rescue would come before the Dravix found them. On the 4th day, Alan woke to a gentle shaking. Natalie was pointing out the window. "Look," she said simply. Massive ship had appeared nearby, but not Dravix. The sleek lines and blue glow of human engines were unmistakable. It was an Earth rescue cruiser. Within hours, all surviving pods had been retrieved. The rescued crew gathered in the cruiser's main hall, many injured, all exhausted. They watched in silence as Captain Ben Miller of the rescue cruiser played the message that had been waiting for them. The screen showed Earth's President Richard Palmer, his face serious. "To the survivors of the Mercy's hand," he began. "First, know that you are heroes. You went to help others as humanity has always done." His expression hardened. "Second, know that your message reached us. We saw everything. The entire recording was broadcast across Earth and all colonies. The Dravix's actions have united humanity in a way nothing else could." The president paused, then continued with steel in his voice. "For the first time in our history, the Security Council has unanimously activated Article 7 of the Earth Defense Charter, full retaliation authorization. The Dravix attacked those who came in peace to offer help. Earth will respond." The screen showed massive ships assembling in Earth orbit. Ships most civilians didn't know existed. The Earth Defense Force was mobilizing. "You will be brought home safely," the president finished. and justice will be done." When the message ended, the room remained silent. Then slowly, Dr. Natalie Winters stood up, her medical coat torn and stained but still bearing the Red Cross symbol. "They thought attacking healers made them strong," she said quietly. "They're about to learn it was the worst mistake they could have made." Captain Alan Foster, his leg bandaged but standing tall, nodded. In all his years of service, he had never seen Earth prepare for war. The Draviks had no idea what they had awakened. Humanity had maintained peace, not through weakness but through choice. Now that choice had been taken away, and Earth would retaliate. The footage from the Mercy's Hand played on screens across Earth and its colonies. People watched in horror as the Dravik ships attacked the clearly marked medical vessel. They saw crew members gunned down while trying to help others. They witnessed the deliberate targeting of medical bays and life support systems. In homes, schools, and public places, humans fell silent as they watched. Then came anger. Protests filled the streets. Military recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers. The message was clear. This would not stand. In the large circular room of the Emergency Council on Earth, the highest leaders of humanity gathered. The room buzzed with angry voices until Admiral Samantha Hayes slammed her hand on the table. "Enough," she shouted. "We need action, not more talk." The room fell silent. Admiral Hayes rarely showed emotion, which made her outburst more powerful. "The Draviks didn't just attack a ship," she continued. "They violated the most basic rule of space. Medical vessels are protected by every treaty ever signed. They used a fake distress call to lure in healers, then slaughtered them, President." Richard Palmer nodded. Normally calm and focused on peaceful solutions, even he couldn't hide his anger. "What do we know about their motives?" Secretary of State Paul Bennett adjusted his glasses. "We've sent 17 communication attempts. Since the attack, the Draviks have responded to none. Their borders are now completely closed. They've been watching us for years," said Intelligence Officer Diane Russell. Her dark eyes looked tired. She hadn't slept since the attack. "My team believes this was a planned operation, not a random attack. They specifically wanted our medical technology." "Why?" asked the President. Diane pulled up data on the main screen. "The Draviks suffered a major plague 3 years ago. They lost nearly 20% of their population. Our intelligence suggests they've had trouble recovering. So they steal our medical technology instead of asking for help?" General Victor Martinez asked. The usually quiet head of Earth Defense Forces looked ready for battle. "We would have helped them if they'd asked. That's what we do." "They saw asking for help as weakness," Diane explained. "Their culture values strength above everything. In their mind, taking what they need proves their superiority." President Palmer stood up and walked to the window. Outside he could see the lights of the city. Peaceful. Orderly. Earth had enjoyed centuries of relative calm, focusing on exploration and helping other species. "We've always believed in measured response," he said quietly. "We've always chosen diplomacy first." "With respect, Mr. President," said Admiral Hayes, "they attacked healers. Throughout human history, even in our most brutal wars, attacking medical personnel has been considered unforgivable." The President turned back to the room. "What are our options?" General Martinez displayed a map of Dravik space. "We have 3 possible approaches. First, economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation. Second, a limited military strike to rescue our captured people and retrieve our stolen technology. Third," he paused, "full retaliation." "Explain full retaliation," the President said. "We use everything we have. Not to destroy them, but to completely neutralize their military capability. We've hidden our true strength for generations. The Draviks have no idea what we can really do." The room fell silent again. For centuries, Earth had maintained peace not through weakness, but through restraint. The full extent of human military technology was one of Earth's most closely guarded secrets. "The public is demanding action," Secretary Bennett pointed out. 97% support a major military response. They want justice for the Mercy's Hand." President Palmer looked at each council member. "Dr. Winters and Captain Foster, where are they now?" "At Military Medical Center," Admiral Hayes answered. "They're recovering and helping debrief the other survivors. I want to speak with them before we decide," the president said. An hour later, Dr. Natalie Winters and Captain Alan Foster were brought to the council room. Both still showed signs of their ordeal. Alan walked with a slight limp from his leg, wound. Natalie's hands had burns from destroying the medical samples. "Thank you for coming," the president said. "We're considering our response to the attack. As the senior surviving officers, your input matters." Natalie spoke first. "Mr. President, I took an oath to heal, to do no harm. I've treated patients from 30 different species, including Draviks. Yet they attacked you without provocation," General Martinez said. Natalie nodded. "They did, and they killed my friends and colleagues who only wanted to help." Her voice shook slightly. "I believe in peace, but I also believe in justice." Captain Foster stepped forward. "Sir, in 20 years of rescue missions, I've never carried weapons on my ship. I believed the Red Cross symbol would protect us." His eyes hardened. "I was wrong." "What would you have us do, Captain?" the president asked. "Show them that attacking?" "Healers was the worst mistake they could make," Foster said simply. "Not out of revenge, but so no one ever makes that mistake again." After they left, President Palmer sat quietly for a long moment. Then he straightened his shoulders and looked at the council. "Prepare Article 7 of the Earth Defense Charter for my signature," he said firmly. "Full retaliation authorization." The council members exchanged shocked glances. Article 7 had never been invoked before. "Are you certain, sir?" asked Secretary Bennett. "I am. The Draviks have mistaken our commitment to peace for weakness. They need to understand that some lines must never be crossed." Within hours, the president addressed Earth and its colonies. Billions watched as he spoke. "Today," he said gravely, "I have signed Article 7 of the Earth Defense Charter. For the first time in our history, Earth will engage in full retaliation." He paused as murmurs spread across the watching crowds. The Draviks deliberately attacked a medical ship answering a false distress call. They killed doctors and nurses whose only purpose was to heal. They violated the most sacred rule of space. His voice grew stronger. "Our response will be swift and decisive. But even in retaliation, we remain human. We will not target civilians. We will not destroy their worlds. We will remove their ability to threaten anyone ever again, and we will rescue our captured people." Across Earth's solar system, military ships that had remained hidden for generations emerged from secret bases. Reserve forces were activated. Weapon systems that few knew existed were prepared for deployment. On the flagship Retribution fleet, Admiral Joseph Garcia watched as his armada assembled. Over 200 ships, each carrying technology far beyond what Earth had ever shown to the rest of the galaxy. "Status report," he ordered. "All ships report ready, Admiral," responded his second-in-command. "Operation Healer's Vengeance is prepared to launch on your order." Admiral Garcia looked at the star map showing Dravik space. For centuries, Earth had chosen peace. The Draviks had just discovered what happened when that choice was taken away. "Send the message to all ships," he ordered. "We launch in 6 hours." Earth was going to war. The Earth response began not with a direct attack, but with something the Draviks never expected. Fleet Admiral Joseph Garcia stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the stars on the main screen. His gray hair was cut short. His uniform, perfectly neat. For 40 years he had trained for a war he hoped would never come. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his second-in-command. Joseph nodded. "Begin Phase 1. Across the fleet, small ships separated from the larger vessels. These weren't combat ships, but stealth drones. Each was barely larger than a car, but packed with technology that had remained secret for generations. "Stealth drones. Entering Dravik space," reported the sensor officer. "No signs of detection." The Admiral watched the progress on his screens. The drones moved quickly through Dravik's territory, heading for specific targets. Earth intelligence had mapped every Dravik's military installation and detection system over the past decade. First, drones reaching primary targets. On the screen, signals began to flash as the drones reached their destinations. Each drone positioned itself near a Dravix sensor station and activated its primary system. Not weapons, but advanced electronic warfare devices. One by one, Dravix detection grids began to fail. 60% of their detection network is now blind, reported the officer. No signs they've identified the cause. Joseph allowed himself a small smile. The Dravix believed their sensor network was unbeatable. They had no idea that Earth had been able to disable similar systems for over a century. Dravix response ships, launching, the sensor officer called out. They're sending vessels to investigate the failures. As expected, Joseph said calmly. Continue with Phase 1. The drones remained undetected, their stealth technology far beyond Dravix capabilities. By the time all drones were in position, over 90% of Dravix detection systems had been neutralized. Joseph pressed a button on his chair. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2. While the main fleet remained hidden outside Dravix space, a smaller team led by Commander Susan Rodriguez approached from another direction. Their mission was not combat but rescue. Susan checked her team one last time. 20 special operations personnel, each in advanced stealth armor. They were aboard the Shadow, a ship designed specifically for covert missions. We've confirmed the location of the Mercy's Hand survivors, she told her team. They're being held in a research facility on the third moon of Dravix Prime. Our mission is to get them out without alerting the main Dravix forces. Her second-in-command, Jack Reeves, studied the facility plans. Their security is heavy, but they're focused outward. They're expecting an attack from space, not from inside. Susan nodded. That's our advantage. We go in quiet. We find our people. We get out. We leave no one behind. The Shadow approached the moon, its advanced systems making it invisible to even the few Dravix sensors still operating. It landed silently 2 miles from the facility, hidden among rocky hills. Susan led her team across the barren landscape. The Dravix moon had thin air, but enough for humans to breathe with assistance. They moved quickly but carefully, avoiding Dravix patrols. At the facility perimeter, Susan held up her hand, stopping the team. Ahead, tall gray buildings rose against the dark sky. Guard towers stood at each corner, manned by Dravix soldiers. Remember, non-lethal approaches unless absolutely necessary, she reminded her team. These may be our enemies, but we still follow our principles. They used sound suppressors to disable the perimeter guards without killing them. The team moved through the facility like ghosts, avoiding detection. When they couldn't avoid Dravix guards, they used stun weapons that left the aliens unconscious but unharmed. Susan checked her scanner as they reached a heavily secured area. Life signs match human patterns. They're in there. Jack worked on the security panel bypassing Dravix systems. The door slid open to reveal a large room filled with medical equipment. And there, in containment cells along the walls, were 37 humans, the captured crew of the Mercy's Hand. A doctor moved forward, her face showing signs of rough treatment but her eyes still fierce. Who are you? Commander Susan Rodriguez. Earth Special Operations, we're here to take you home. The doctor's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank God. They've been using us like lab rats, testing our reactions to their biological agents. Susan felt anger rising but kept her voice calm. Can everyone walk? Most of us. A few will need help. Then let's move. The main Earth fleet is about to arrive, and we need to be gone before that happens. They helped the weakest prisoners and began their escape. As they moved through the facility, alarms suddenly blared. They've discovered the missing guards, Jack reported. Susan made a quick decision. New plan. No more stealth. Run for the ship. The team moved faster now, no longer hiding. When Dravix guards appeared, they used their stun weapons without hesitation. The rescued crew members who could still fight picked up weapons from fallen guards. As they reached the open ground between the facility and their hidden ship, Dravix aircraft appeared overhead, searchlights sweeping the ground. They can't see our ship, but they'll spot us, Jack warned. Susan activated her emergency communicator. Captain, we need immediate extraction. Light up the ship and give us cover. The shadow suddenly appeared as its stealth systems deactivated. Defensive weapons emerged from hidden compartments and fired precise bursts at the Dravik's aircraft, disabling them without destroying them. The loading ramp opened, and the team rushed toward it with their rescued comrades. Dravik's soldiers followed, firing energy weapons that scorched the ground around them. Susan was the last to board, turning to fire, covering shots as the others reached safety. A Dravik's blast caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around. Jack ran back, grabbing her before she fell, and pulled her into the ship. The ramp closed as the shadow lifted off, accelerating quickly away from the moon. Behind them, the Dravik's facility scrambled more ships, but it was too late. The shadow reactivated its stealth systems and vanished from their sensors. In the medical bay, Susan winced as her wound was treated. Status report? All 37 prisoners recovered, Jack confirmed. No casualties on our side, mission accomplished. Susan nodded, then activated her communication to the main fleet. Admiral Garcia, this is Commander Rodriguez. Phase 2 complete. All survivors recovered. On the Retribution, Admiral Garcia received the message with visible relief. Excellent work, Commander. Return to the fleet. He turned to his officers. Now we begin Phase 3. Bring the fleet to the border of Dravik space. The massive Earth Armada moved into position, finally revealing itself. Over 200 warships formed a line along the Dravik's border. For the first time, Earth showed its true military power. Admiral Garcia opened a channel to the Dravik's High Command. His message was short. Return the remains of the Mercy's hand and surrender those who ordered the attack, or face the consequences. The Dravik's response came quickly. Thousands of warships launching from bases across their territory, forming a fleet that outnumbered the Earth forces 5-1. Joseph watched calmly as the enemy approached. They still don't understand who they're facing, he said quietly. Then louder. All ships prepare for Phase 3. Operation Healer's Vengeance now enters its final stage. The Earth ships began to move forward, advanced weapons powering up. The Dravik's had attacked Healers, believing it showed Earth's weakness. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The two fleets faced each other across the darkness of space. On one side, thousands of Dravik's warships, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. On the other, the smaller Earth fleet, gleaming blue and silver in the starlight. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Joseph Garcia gave his final orders. All ships, activate defense systems and prepare specialized weapons. Remember our mission. We disable their military. We don't destroy their civilization. The Dravik's ships moved forward in attack formation. Their commanders were confident. They outnumbered the humans 5-1. Their weapons were feared throughout this part of the galaxy. They had never lost a major battle. Dravik's fleet approaching firing range, reported the sensor officer. They're charging weapons. Joseph nodded calmly. Hold position. Wait for them to fire first. The Dravik's didn't hesitate. Their lead ships fired a massive volley of energy beams and missiles. The attack was designed to overwhelm any defense system, but it never reached the Earth ships. As the Dravik's weapons approached, the space between the fleets suddenly shimmered. The energy beams scattered in all directions. The missiles stopped in mid-flight, their guidance systems suddenly useless. Energy deflection fields working perfectly, reported the weapons officer. Their attack had zero effect. On the Dravik's command ship, confusion spread. Their most powerful weapons had done nothing. They fired again with the same result. Joseph allowed himself a small smile. Now it's our turn. All ships, initiate Phase 3. The Earth ships still didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they released hundreds of small devices that spread rapidly through space, surrounding the Dravik's fleet. EMP generators in position, called the weapons officer. Ready on your command. Fire, Joseph ordered. The devices activated simultaneously. Waves of precisely calibrated electromagnetic energy washed over the Dravik's ships. One by one, their systems failed. Engines died. Weapons went offline. Communications fell silent. Within minutes, the mighty Dravik's fleet drifted powerless in space. Status report, Joseph demanded. 97% of Dravik's vessels neutralized, came the response. No destruction, as ordered. Their life support systems remained functional. Only a few Dravik ships at the edges of the formation had escaped the EMP effect. They turned and fled, carrying news of the impossible defeat back to Dravik's high command. Joseph opened a channel to all Earth ships. Begin Phase 4, Precision, strikes on military installations only. Remember our rules of engagement, no civilian targets. The Earth fleet split into smaller groups, each heading for different targets across Dravik's space. Their mission was surgical, to disable military bases, weapons factories, and defense systems without harming civilian areas. Earth ships appeared above Dravik's military bases, firing weapons that disabled rather than destroyed. Special forces, teams landed to secure key facilities. Wherever they went, the pattern was the same: overwhelm, disable, secure. Within 12 hours, the entire Dravik's military infrastructure lay in ruins. Not through destruction, but through precise neutralization. Their weapons no longer worked. Their bases were under Earth control. Their ships drifted powerless. On the Dravik's homeworld, panic spread through the leadership. They had believed themselves invincible. They had never imagined such a defeat was possible. The supreme commander of the Dravik's forces, Krenvex, stared at reports of the disaster with disbelief. How could this happen? The humans were supposed to be weak, peaceful. They were healers and explorers, not warriors. A message arrived from the human fleet. The Supreme Commander was requested to come aboard the Retribution to discuss surrender terms. Refusal was not an option. With no alternatives left, Krenvex boarded a small shuttle with 2 advisors. The shuttle was escorted to the Retribution by Earth fighters. In the main conference room of the flagship, Krenvex faced Admiral Garcia, General Martinez, and Dr. Natalie Winters, one of the few senior officers to survive the Mercy's Hand massacre. The Dravik's commander stood tall, his gray skin pale with stress but his 3 eyes showing defiance. "You have defeated us," he admitted. "What destruction do you plan for our worlds?" Admiral Garcia's voice was calm. "None. Earth does not destroy civilizations, even those who have attacked us." Krenvex seemed confused. "Then why this show of force? Why reveal your true military power now?" "Because you attacked a mission of mercy," General Martinez explained. "You targeted those who came only to heal. That crossed a line no human could accept." Dr. Winters stepped forward. The Dravik's commander flinched slightly, expecting hatred from this survivor of his attack. Instead, she spoke with quiet dignity. "I took an oath to heal," she said. "Even you." She placed a data device on the table between them. "This contains medical information that could help your people recover from the plague that has damaged your population. We knew about your suffering. We would have helped if you had asked." Krenvex's middle eye widened in surprise. "You knew? And you would have shared this freely?" "That's what healers do," she replied simply. The surrender terms were presented. The Dravik's would give up all military capacity, but retain their sovereignty. They would provide compensation not to Earth, but to a new interspecies medical corps that would serve all civilizations in need. The Dravik's leaders responsible for the attack would face trial in a new interstellar humanitarian court. And most surprising to the Dravik's commander, Earth would establish medical stations throughout Dravik's territory, staffed by both human and Dravik's medical personnel. What began as defeat would become cooperation. 1 month later, President Richard Palmer addressed the United Representatives of Earth and its colonies. The Great Hall fell silent as he spoke. "Today marks not a victory of weapons, but a victory of principles," he said. "The Dravik's attacked a mission of mercy, believing it showed weakness. They now understand that humanity's commitment to healing and to justice are 2 sides of the same coin." He gestured to Dr. Natalie Winters and the other survivors of the Mercy's Hand seated in places of honor. These brave individuals went into space to help others. Their ship was destroyed, their colleagues killed. Yet even in the face of such barbarism, they remembered their oath to heal. Across Dravik space, the changes were already visible. Earth medical ships, now with proper protection, brought treatments for the plague that had devastated their population. Young Draviks, inspired by human example, began training as healers rather than warriors. 10 years later, a memorial was placed in orbit around the Dravik's homeworld. It showed two figures, a human and a Dravix, standing side by side with medical symbols from both cultures. The inscription read in both languages, "Through the darkest acts we found our way back to light. Never again will healers stand alone." Throughout inhabited space, all species learned an important lesson. Earth would always answer calls for help, and those who betrayed that trust would face humanity's full capacity for justice, measured not in enemies destroyed, but in how quickly mercy could follow righteous force. The stars themselves seemed to bear witness to a fundamental truth. Attacking those who come to heal was the one provocation humanity would never tolerate. Earth's response had rewritten the rules of galactic civilization, not through domination, but through the most human principle of all, protecting those who help others. And the Draviks, once feared as ruthless warriors, began a new chapter in their history. They learned that true strength was not in attacking the defenseless but in healing the wounded. It was a lesson written not in destruction, but in the most powerful force humans had always known: mercy after justice.